He served in the United States Congress. He served as the governor of Indiana and a term as vice president of the United States. And now he's making a run for the big seat. A run that the guy who held the big seat is also making a run for. A run that also the very popular governor of Florida is running for. The very popular senator from South Carolina is running for. The very popular former ambassador to the UN is running for. It's a crowded field. What is the path for Mike Pence? Tony Katz, good to be with you. Vice President Mike Pence joins us right now. It's good to have you, sir, have you as part of the show. I know you've been in campaigning. You've been back home again in Indiana. You did a big event in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You take a look at this field, and you know you've got these obstacles against you, but let's start with the top line. What is the path for Mike Pence to the White House in 2024?
Well, first off, Tony, thanks for having me on. We love WIBC. I didn't want to let these first few weeks play out without checking in with you and telling you that we are excited about the opportunity to take our story, to take our experience into the campaign for the Republican nomination for president of the United States. But, I just came from Rosie's place in Zionsville. I got three granddaughters in town. They were born in the last 2 years. We just had a great morning, and there's really no place like home. And I will tell you that the opportunity to have been home here in Indiana, to reground, to reconnect, has just convinced me that this is a time when those of us with the experience and the background and the knowledge to turn this country around need to step forward. And that generous introduction with that Top Gun music playing, Tony, really was a great setup for why Karen and I feel called to get in this race. We just think we've been blessed. I was a leader in the Congress. I was a leader among House conservatives, fought the big spenders in my own party. I was governor of Indiana, where we balanced budgets, achieved record employment. We doubled the nation's largest school choice program, stood for the right to life. And then those 4 years as vice president, which I couldn't be more proud of the record of that time. All tell me that at a time when we see the country in a lot of trouble, we see President Joe Biden and the Democrats having weakened America at home and abroad. Karen and I, after a lot of prayer, just concluded that we felt a duty to step forward. And I got to tell you, in the last 2 weeks since we announced, with a lot of Hoosiers that joined us out in Iowa for the announcement, we've been incredibly encouraged. People are going to MikePence2024.com, joining the team, some of them even just with $1 contribution. And I'm more encouraged than ever about this opportunity. But we're just determined to do our part to turn this country around, Tony.
You bring up the experience part. I don't deny that you have experiences that many other people don't have. But if the experience part is the part people should be looking at, President Trump was president. Wouldn't that be the experience part that people vote for? How do you combat that conversation?
Well, I think you combat it with a focus on the future, candidly. In my announcement speech, which, as I said, people can check out at our website at MikePence2024.com, I made a point to say that, look, there's other candidates in this race who have taken to criticize the Trump-Pence record. I'm incredibly proud of what we did, Tony. I mean, we rebuilt our military. We secured our border. We took the fight to our enemies as never before, took down the ISIS caliphate. And at home, 7 million good-paying jobs, tax cuts, energy independence, and 3 justices to the Supreme Court of the United States who were a part of sending Roe versus Wade to the ash heap of history where it belongs. That's a record I'll always be proud of as long as I live. But the reason I'm in this race has to do with a different vision for the country going forward. I mean, you and I have talked many times. I mean, the difficult days I've been candid about at the tail end of our administration continue to be a point of difference between the former president and I. But really, it's a vision for the future. I mean, I'm somebody that believes America is the leader of the free world. We're the arsenal of democracy. I think we need to lean into the fight to give the Ukrainian military what they need to repel the Russian invasion. My former running mate and others have openly questioned whether America should be committed there. On the national debt, Joe Biden's policy is insolvency, Tony. He won't even talk about the fact that 70% of our national debt is driven by entitlements. My former running mate's taken the same position as Joe Biden, that we're not even going to talk about compassionate and responsible reforms. But I think we owe those three granddaughters of mine better. And frankly, on the right to life, where I'll be outside the Lincoln Memorial this Saturday morning, marking the 1-year anniversary of the Dobbs decision that opened a new era for life. My former running mate and others are beginning to shy away from the cause of life, and frankly, blaming electoral.
So now you're starting
2022 on that.
Now you're starting to engage in those separations, talking to Vice President Mike Pence, candidate for president in 2024, MikePence2024.com. Before we get into the abortion conversation, where you've made statements specifically to NBC News, and I want to share the clip, you just discussed Ukraine. Is it the position of a Pence presidency that spending money in helping Ukraine defeat Russia will go on until Russia is defeated? Or is there, in a Pence administration, a number where it's enough and we're not giving any more?
Look, the Russian invasion of Ukraine of a year ago was an act of naked aggression. And frankly, let me say plainly, the Biden administration has been slow in providing the Ukrainian military with what they need. They promised them 33 Abrams tanks back in January, Tony, and they still don't have them. They're dithering about aircraft. It's no real surprise, though. When we came into office in 2017, the Obama-Biden administration had cut off all military aid to Ukraine, refused to sell them any equipment. We gave them anti-tank Javelin missiles and provided them resources they're using to repel the Russian invasion. Look, I'm somebody that believes in the Reagan doctrine that was minted back in the 80s. It said, look, if you're willing to fight the communists in your country, we'll give you the means to fight them there so we don't have to fight them here. And I think it is in our national interest to give Ukraine what they need more quickly than the Biden administration is doing to repel that Russian invasion. I also think that by repelling the Russian invasion, you're sending a deafening message to communist China that America and the wider world will not tolerate the use of military aggression to redraw international lines.
Is there any amount of money that's too much?
Well, it's interesting. In his State of the Union address, President Biden said, we're there as long as it takes, right? But it shouldn't take that long. I mean, we're the most powerful military in the world by far. I mean, Russia has gone from being the second most powerful military in the world to being the second most powerful military in Ukraine. I mean, if we will simply give them the resources they need, these Ukrainian fighters have demonstrated their ability to repel this invasion. I remain very optimistic that President Zelensky, who I came to know personally when I was vice president, is going to continue to marshal the support and drive them back out of the border. Let me say, here's my whole thing, Tony. If you think that Vladimir Putin will stop if he overruns Ukraine, I think, as we like to say here in Indiana, you've got another thing coming. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that Russian military, if they take Ukraine, they're going to have their eyes set on the Baltics. They're going to have their eyes set on Poland. I mean, Vladimir Putin has made no secret of his desire to reestablish that old Soviet sphere of influence in Eastern Europe. I think we provide the Ukrainian military what they need to stop them there, so that our men and women in uniform. I got a son who's a captain in the Marine Corps. I got a son-in-law who's a lieutenant in the Navy. We stop them there, and we will prevent the day that they cross a border where our servicemen and women will have to go and fight because he enters into a NATO ally.
Let's move into this pro-life conversation, which is going to be a part of the 2024 political season. Talking to Vice President Mike Pence. You can get more information from his site, MikePence2024.com, candidate for president of the United States. The Dobbs decision, which you're going to celebrate in D.C., is credited for Republicans having failures in 2022 with levels of not getting enough seats in the House, with losing the Senate. And here are your words on NBC regarding President Trump and his thoughts on pro-life bills. Sorry about that. Let's try that again.
Apologize for it. But after leading the most pro-life administration in American history, and now my former running mate has taken to calling some pro-life bills at the state level too harsh, and he called the
6-week bill in Florida too harsh. You disagree with him?
I do.
Yeah.
But he also blamed electoral losses in 2022 on overturning Roe versus Wade. Look, I think that the cause of life has been the animating force of the conservative movement in the Republican Party for 50 years. What do you think 2020?
So is the argument that the Republican Party wasn't prepared for life after the overturning of Roe v. Wade? Or is the argument that Trump did not know how to position Republicans to a level of success and he's responsible for not taking back the Senate?
Well, I think it might be door number 3, Tony. And that is, and like I said, I said at the top of that clip, I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. Hoosiers know I have and always will stand for the sanctity of human life. But look, I think when you look at the 2022 elections, there were many examples where men and women who were running for office who took a strong pro-life position, governors around the country who passed strong pro-life measures, did fine in the election. I mean, where we stumbled in 2022, I believe, was where we had candidates that were focused on the past, that were focused particularly on relitigating the past. We actually lost races in states that we frankly should have won. But I can tell you, and you can go to the Susan B. Anthony list online, any of your listeners, and look at the stats. Men and women who stood firmly and compassionately on principle for the right to life did well, even in highly competitive races around the country. But for me, this is an issue that's more important than politics. But I really do believe if we stand with compassion and with clarity on the sanctity of human life, we can continue to win hearts and minds and win elections around the country.
In the time that we've known each other as governor and then as vice president, when I first got to Indiana, we've been able to have some I think good conversations and open conversations. And as people on your team know, and I only hope you know, I will never ever lie to you. And even if it means we never speak to each other again, I won't do it. I refuse to do it. I'm a guy who stands on the outside looking in, trying to see your path to 2024. Yeah. Where is the Mike Pence way? And part of any path to 2024 is never mind overcoming President Trump, but it's being able to get his acolytes, his strong supporters, if he should not get the nomination, to go along with somebody else. You're the guy that they see, and I believe that they are wrong. I have stated publicly that they were wrong, and you were right on January 6th. They see you, and the term they use is traitor. Mr. Vice President, how do you get those people to vote for you, and can you win a primary, never mind a general, without them?
Well, number one, I love the people that supported our cause for 4 years, and I met tens of thousands of our supporters as I traveled around the country, attended rallies with the president, did rallies of my own. So I have nothing but gratitude for the support and the prayers of millions of Americans. But look, I think it's one of the reasons why in my announcement speech, which thanks for mentioning the website again, Tony. But if people didn't spot my announcement speech a couple weeks ago, I dealt with this issue up front. Look, people know me, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. I took an oath to the Constitution of the United States that I swore to the American people and to Almighty God. And in that speech, I laid out the provisions of the Constitution that I acted on and stood on, and by God's grace did my duty on January 6th. And we're going to deal with that very forthrightly. But I got to be honest with you. As I've traveled around Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and continue to travel around the country, I've really been deeply moved at the number of Americans who understand the role that I had that day and my commitment to the Constitution, who hold the view that you hold on it, Tony, for which I'm grateful. And I have to tell you, I truly do believe that the vast majority of Republican primary voters know that we need new leadership in this party, but we need leadership that's grounded on the conservative agenda that you've been a champion of throughout your public career on the radio. It's everything I've always been about for 30 years, all the way back to my time on WIBC, and then 20 years in the Congress and as governor and as vice president. And I continue to get that encouragement around the country. But look, we're going to be forthright about it. People I hope, will come to know that we did our duty that day, according to the oath that we'd taken. But that at the end of the day, I'm confident this party will come together because, frankly, the disastrous policies of the Biden administration, literally, as I said before, have weakened this country at home and abroad in ways that I've never seen in my lifetime. And I think the American people know this country's in a lot of trouble, but that we're going to have a good competitive primary. And Lord willing, we'll have the opportunity to be the standard bearer. But I'm confident that Republican primary voters, independents, and frankly, many fair-minded Democrats are going to rally behind our Republican nominee. And we're going to elect a new Republican president of Congress, and we're going to get this country turned around.
I've got 60 seconds. You've got a former president who's going to hit you over the head for not doing what he thinks was your job. You've got a governor in Florida who's going to hit you over the head for being tied to that president. You've got a senator from South Carolina who's going to go after the same evangelical base you are. What has to happen? What is the Pence message that is different from those messages to get people attracted to your campaign?
Well, my one conclusion traveling the country in the last 2 years is that Karen and I we're well known, but we're not known well, Tony. I mean, Hoosiers know the Pences. You know, just as I said, we were at Rosie's place this morning, stopped, greeted, had some good friends there, took a few pictures, but this is home. But I think the opportunity to share our heart, to share our vision, to tell the story of our whole life and our whole career, and doing that in the kind of retail politics that Iowa and New Hampshire and the early states demand, we're just going to go out there and work our hearts out. We're going to tell our story, and we're going to trust the American people and the good Lord for the future.
Vice President Mike Pence, I appreciate you taking the time, sir. The website, Mike Pence 2024, that's 2024, MikePence2024.com to get more information, be a part of what it is the Vice President is doing. Sir, always a pleasure. I appreciate you being with us on the DriveHubler.com hotline.
Thank you, Tony. Talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, sir. There he goes. I have much to break down. I have much to go back and listen to. We, of course, will have the full interview up at WIBC.com, and we will go from there. My thanks to Vice President Mike Pence, MikePence2024.com. We will get all the candidates, or we're certainly going to try to get everybody here. Everybody has got to get asked the questions. The road to the White House comes through WIBC.